Hello guys, welcome to Idyllic Learning. In this session, we are going to talk about literal values, variables and data types. Let's begin by talking about literal values. A literal value is a constant value which doesn't change. So, in our previous session, we printed hello world using console.writeLine. In this statement, hello world is a literal value since we literally wanted to print individual characters HELLO and display them on the terminal. Whenever we want to display any alphanumeric value or a text, we can use string literal type. Similarly, if we want to print a single character, then we can use character literal type and can display a single value or a single character. So here, if I want to display F, then I can use single quotes and run this program and this will print a single character. Similarly, I can display any special character or a symbol using single quotes and it will perfectly display that special character. Now, if I want to replace this $sign with hello world, then the compiler will start throwing an error stating that too many characters are displayed in a character literal because character literal can accept at most one character at a time. So in this case, we have to change single quotes to double quotes and the compiler will stop throwing us the error, and when we run our program it will display hello world on the terminal. So whenever we have to display a single character or a text, we can use character or string data type. On the other hand, if we have to deal with numbers or numeric values, then there are different data types available to us. The first one is an integer data type. Whenever we want to display or deal with any integer value or a non-decimal value, we can use integer data type. For example, if I want to display 1, 2, 3 on the console, and if I write 1, 2, 3 here, then you can see C# compiler has already converted into int32 data type. And if I run this program, then we are going to get 1, 2, 3 displayed on the terminal. Now, if we are dealing with decimal values, then we have to use floating point data types. Floating point data types consist of three data types. First one is float, next one is double, and last one is decimal data type. Float is the least precise or accurate among these three. So if I want to use any decimal values, let's say 123.45, and I want it to be of float data type, then I have to suffix f at the end of this number. And you can see the compiler has automatically converted this into floating point number. You can use either uppercase f or lowercase f in order to use floating point data type. Next one is double data type. Double data type is more precise and accurate than float, and it is the default data type used to represent decimal values. In this case, if we remove the suffix f, then the compiler will automatically default this value to double data type. The last one is the decimal data type, which is an highly accurate and the most precise of the three floating point data types. And in order to convert this decimal value to decimal point, we can either suffix uppercase m or lowercase m at the end of the number, and the compiler will or implicitly convert this into decimal data type. If we run our program one more time, then it's going to display the output as 123.45. Please note that float data type accepts 6 to 9 digits precision, double data type allows 17 to 19 decimal places precision, while decimal point allows 28 to 29 values precision or accuracy. So it's up to you, depending upon whether you are performing a highly complicated or a large value scientific calculation, then you can use double data type or decimal data type. On the other hand, If you are working with a smaller decimal value, you can use float data type. Next one is a Boolean data type. Most of the time, when you are writing real world application, you will be making a decision which action you will be performing next based on the scenario occurring. So you must be writing code something like, if scenario A occurs, I'll be performing action B. If scenario C occurs, I'll be performing action D. These kind of decision based programming or coding involves Boolean values or Boolean data types. Boolean values or Boolean data types considers either true or false values. So here, if I write true here, then you can see the C# compiler has already converted this into Boolean data type. Similarly, if we change it to false, then again this will be considered as a Boolean data type. Here, true represents truth while false represents falsehood. And if I try to run this program one more time, the output will be false with an uppercase F. Why data types are important? Why do we need data types? The reason being, earlier we have seen whenever we need to present something or whenever we are dealing with the presentation such as text or string, we are using text based data types such as char, which is character, or string data types. While on the other hand, if our programming or our code involves calculations or writing such as this, then we'll be dealing with integer data type, or in case of decimal values, float data type or double data types. And finally, if we have a decision to make, then we'll be dealing with Boolean data types such as true or false. So variables help us in improving the capability of our program and reducing the future errors that may occur at some point of time. Also, data types provides a clear path to the programmer by making sure that we are using the correct value while assigning that value to the variable. The next thing we are going to talk about is a variable. We just talked about literal values that are constant in nature and doesn't change with time. But in real world programming, while developing applications, we have to deal with values that are ever changing. Or in other words, we have to deal with dynamic values. In order to store, read or update these values, we need a container. We need variables. A variable is a container or a memory location that stores a particular kind or type of value. That value can be a string, a character, integer, or a decimal value. As their name suggests, we can read, update, reassign values to the variables any number of times. So for example, if we have to store the name of the user, then we are going to create a variable called first name and assign it some value. Let's say Goku. But a variable must be followed by the data type it is holding. So in this case, we are holding or we are storing a string value. So we have to make this variable of string data type. On the other hand, if we want to store something, let's say age, we are going to declare this variable with int data type and call it, let's say age, and store some value, relevant age. Generally, a variable name should be human readable or human friendly name that can be easily understandable by everyone. There are a few naming conventions associated while writing variable names. The first one is variable names can contain alphanumeric values or underscores but cannot contain special characters like hash or pound or $sign. So the correct variable name can be first underscore name. Let's assign some value, let's say Naruto, to first name, and this is a valid variable name. But if we replace this underscore with, let's say $sign, then this is an invalid variable name since we cannot use this special character dollar in variable name. On the other hand, we can begin a variable name with an alphabet or an underscore. Both are fine. but we cannot begin a variable name with a number. Let's say for first name. This is an invalid variable name, although we can use any number in the middle or end of the variable name, which is completely fine. Next is, since C# is a case sensitive language, so variable names also follows the same convention, that is string first name and string uppercase first name are totally different to C# compiler. Lastly, we cannot store built-in keywords or reserved keywords as a variable name. So here I cannot write int string as a variable name since string is a built-in keyword. Similarly, I cannot use for as a variable name because for is used in for loop and cannot be used as a variable name. So these are the naming conventions that we must follow while writing a variable name in C#. Variables are ever changing. This means we can assign values and reassign other values to the same variable as many times as we want. The basic purpose that the variables serve: storing the data, reading the data, updating it. So basically variables are used to store and fetch the values. So here I am going to create a variable of data type string. I am going to call it first name. The next line I am going to assign some value to this first name. Let's say Goku. Now if we try to print the value inside variable first name by using the command .NET run, we'll get the output as Goku. Now within the same variable we can reassign another value. This time I'm going to assign the value Gohan, and if we run our program one more time, the output will be the latest value assigned to this variable, which is Gohan. If I reassign a new value, let's say Naruto, to first name and rerun our program, so this time Naruto will be printed. Now I'm going to remove these assignments, and as soon as I remove these lines, you can see a red squiggly line appears stating use of unassigned local variable first name. Through this error, the C# compiler is showing a message that the variable has been declared but has not been assigned any value. So it's mandatory in C# that a variable after its declaration must be assigned some value. So I'm going to assign some value to this variable one more time, say Luffy, and if we run our program one more time, the output will be Luffy. But there is a better way of declaring and assigning the value to that variable in a single line. So let me comment out this line, and instead of assigning the value in the next line, I'm going to assign the value to the variable in the same line. This type of declaration and assignment of value to the variable in a single line is known as initializing the variable or variable initialization. Again, if we rerun our program, it will work just fine. There is another way of declaring a variable while assigning the values. So if I am creating a variable for storing username Itachi, then instead of defining this variable of type string, we can define it with the word where. Where is a generalized data type that can be used in place of other data types. Since we are using a string value, the C# compiler is automatically going to convert this where into other type string at runtime. Similarly, if I create another variable, let's say age, assign it some value and define this variable with where, then the C# compiler is going to implicitly convert this variable where into int32. and if I add 0.5, a decimal value, then now the var will be implicitly converted to double data type. So var can be used as a generalized data type, and because of this nature, var variables are also known as implicitly typed local variables. Even though var seems to be a flexible operation, it's always better to use specific data type while declaring or initializing a variable, since using a specific data type always reduces the chances of error in the future. I hope you have liked this video. Please practice programs, try to run by your own, and in case of any problem, please share your queries and I'll try to resolve them. Thank you so much.